What is going on, y'all? Faiz Sports Talk back at it with another video talking some NFL. And here to talk about the Chicago Bears. So if you're a Bears fan, hit the big red subscribe button down below. Make sure to follow me on all my social media platforms. And guys, hit the bell icon so you're notified every time I drop a new video. All right, people. So I want to break down and talk about Ryan Poles, the new Chicago Bears general manager, and his approach in free agency thus far. We're a couple of days into free agency, so we've kind of seen how Ryan Poles operates. And I got to tell you, there's some interesting observations I feel like I've made that I want to share with you guys about just how Ryan Poles operates and how he is, looking to build this team. So let's get right into it. Number one, you've seen, and I've seen obviously, Ryan Poles be very calculated and very conservative thus far, at least, in terms of signing free agents. Now, why is that? Well, you take a look at the free agents the Bears have signed. None of them have been quote-unquote big names, if you will. We gave out one, decently sized contract. The rest of them have been, pretty mid-sized to low contracts. So why is it that Ryan Poles is being very calculated and conservative? I believe the reason is because he is in the teardown phase, okay? Teardown phase of this roster. And I mentioned to you guys before, I believe Ryan Poles does not like this Bears roster at all. And he wants to rebuild it completely in his way. So he is cleaning up the mess, quote unquote, that Ryan Pace created here. And so that meant a lot of, cuts. And we've seen that with Danny Trevathan, Tariq Cohen, trading Khalil Mack, the list goes on and on, Eddie Goldman. So he has done more cleaning up than he's done bringing in. Okay? So that tells you right away, he doesn't like this roster, and he does not want to bring in major pieces that will take up a lot of money because he hasn't decided yet in terms of if he's done cleaning up this roster. There's still work left to be done. So what Poles is doing right now, in my opinion, is he's tearing everything down, and then he's going to build it back up. So in his first off season, myself, others, we want Ryan Poles to go after wide receivers, offensive linemen, spend money in free agency. But I believe Ryan Poles is thinking, I don't know if I'm done tearing down this roster for me to rebuild it. Okay? So he's probably still going to do that. So that's why I think he's hesitant to give out big contracts, because he is still trying to determine what else is there left to tear down. So that's number one. He is in the tear down phase, and he's not ready to spend and build, right? Number two, I believe Ryan Poles feels that free agency is not how you win long-term wise in football, right? So you've heard the phrase before, you don't want to win the off season. That doesn't necessarily translate to being able to win during the season. And perfect example, you take the New England Patriots last year. They went on this crazy spending spree and brought in all these free agents, Hunter Henry, Jonnu Smith, the list goes on and on. Go look at how much the Patriots of all teams spent. And what happened? I mean, they had a nice season, but it wasn't anything great. They obviously didn't win a Super Bowl or anything like that. And so all that money, was it really worth it? And I don't believe it was. And so maybe Ryan Poles is thinking, look, free agency is not how you win, Super Bowls. You can certainly add good pieces in free agency, but ultimately he doesn't want to win the offseason. He wants to win the season. And you take a look at some of the positions that I've talked about, right, with wide receiver. I mean, for the most part, folks, I went back and thought about it, wide receiver, I know we signed Allen Robinson, and he turned out to be a decent signing for us, but for the most part, man, wide receivers, number one wide receivers are found through the draft. Very rarely do you get number one wide receivers in free agency. Now, I did want the Bears to add some talent with Justin Fields, like a Christian Kirk. Obviously, didn't want to pay him that money, like a DJ Chark. But he is probably of the mindset that he thinks he can find that talent in the draft, and it's going to be cheaper, and it's going to have more higher upside. So it kind of makes sense. You take a look at the best receivers in football right now. I mean, they were all pretty much drafted, right? And they're staying with their incumbent teams. Devontae Adams, Justin Jefferson, just to name a few. Like, I'm not saying you can't get good free agents like we did with Allen Robinson, but I am saying I think he is of that mindset that more often than not, drafting is the way to go. So I think he is bigger on the draft, and he said this before in the press conference. I just felt like we maybe didn't pay as much attention to it. He's bigger on the draft than he is in free agency. He's just not a big free agent spender. And it's a huge shift from how Ryan Pace was. Ryan Pace was a very, very aggressive guy, went after it, both in draft and free agency. And so that's not what Ryan Poles does and how he operates. All right, that's number 2. And finally, number 3, and this one is really going to blow your guys' minds away. Again, just my observation, if you will. It doesn't have to be true, but this is what I think he is, thinking right now. I don't believe that Ryan Poles is 100% sold on Justin Fields. All right, key word is 100%. And the reason I say that is because in one season, Justin Fields has not proven anything yet in terms of him being able to be that guy moving forward. Now, look, I want to be very careful how I phrase this. I believe Justin Fields has all the potential in the world, and he showed flashes of it, last season. But as a whole, the entire season and his body of work did not represent a guy where you are able to say, oh, he's the guy moving forward. Let's go ahead and build around him. And that's just the truth, folks. All right. You take a look at another quarterback like a Justin Herbert, right, in his first year with the Chargers. Go look at the numbers. Go look at the performances. There was no doubt about it. The Chargers knew they had something special in Justin Herbert. Again, I'm not saying that Justin Fields can't or won't be special, but I am telling you that in his first year, it was not evident enough for you to absolutely definitively say he is the guy moving forward. The Bears hope and wish he is, but again, first year was enough to say that. And so what I believe Poles is thinking is he's thinking, look, we don't know yet if he's the guy moving forward. And I'm not about to allocate all these resources to support and surround him with, right? And spend all this money maybe on receiver, on the offensive line, on weapons, etc. Again, this is probably what Ryan Poles is thinking when I don't know if he's the guy. And you think about it like this. He's saying, look, I will give him some talent. I'll draft some guys for him, and I'll put some, decent talent around him, but it's not going to be worth a lot, right? Contractually, not spending a lot in free agency. And let's see how he does. Because I've said this to you guys before. If you have talent, if you're a star, you will figure out a way to make it work. Now, again, that does not mean you cannot do your due diligence as a general manager and surround the talent with talent. But if you're a star in a bad situation, you will still shine. You might not win anything, but you'll shine. And there's perfectly good examples of that. We take a look at Deshaun Watson early on in Houston. There was nothing around Deshaun Watson. I mean, maybe DeAndre Hopkins, but that's about it. He made it work in a bad situation with a coach like a Bill O'Brien. Like, if your talent is good enough, you will shine. And you shouldn't need everything to be perfect, right? Or elite around you to be able to make it work. If you're a star, it will show. So maybe he's thinking, look, I want to see how Justin Fields deals with this in his second year because he hasn't proven anything to me yet. I need to see if he truly is a star worth building around. So I think that's the reason why Ryan Poles has been so calculated, so conservative, so so easy to sit back and think, okay, I'm going to take this slow because I don't know what I have here yet. I know what I don't like, and I'm going to get rid of it, but I don't know what I have here yet with this team, and I'm going to try to keep a wait and see approach. There's no point of trying to win 8, 9, 10 games and just be competitive like Ryan Pace kept doing year after year, right? He would just keep adding like some talent, and it would never be a Super Bowl team. It would just be a team that would compete for the playoffs, get in the playoffs sometimes, and that's it. Ryan Poles isn't doing that. Either you're really bad or you're really good. So I believe that is his approach. So thus far, that's what I've seen from Ryan Poles, folks. Tell me if I'm way off here. These are just my observations, but this man does not like this roster. I don't believe he feels free agency is the way to go to be able to build a Super Bowl team, and I don't believe he's yet sold on Justin Fields. So let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below. As always, thanks for watching.